Good afternoon and welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. I'm here with Joe Danier. It is Election Day, which is Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. Did you vote?
I did.
Yeah. I'm gonna, as soon as I leave here, I'm gonna go vote. So why don't you tell us all the political issues you find? I'm just kidding.
No, not at all.
Why don't you tell us exactly your party line stance on everything? The only thing that I will say voting wise is now that we are on standard time, whoever cannot get that passed through Congress they are complete idiots, because this is not a party line issue. This is not Republican, Democrat. This is a common sense, like mental health, sunshine, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's going to be it's November 7th. It's going to be dark by like 5:15 today. So
well, and I'm going to make the statistic up at 5% of people die because of daylight savings time.
Yeah, it's probably like 0.5% though. There's probably like
let's make it a little more dramatic.
That's probably still too high.
Just mass die-offs because of the stresses of a time.
Honestly though, and well,
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
Why not?
So yeah, go for it. You do that, and while you're doing that, I'll tell you what's going to be on our normal docket here today. So we are going to talk Cleveland Browns. We're going to start off with that here in just a minute. So the Browns defense was completely dominant, shutting out the Arizona Cardinals this weekend. We kind of knew that was coming, but this was their first shutout in 16 years. We'll talk about that soon.
So I got an answer.
Go ahead.
I have to do more math, but I'm going to give you the first leg of the math. It says, according to this report, a study from the American College of Cardiology showed a 24% increase in heart attacks on the Monday after daylight savings time. So a 24% increase. I'm going to have to figure out what the normal number is, and we'll see what the jump would be.
I bet most of those people are parents too, of little kids that
don't sleep,
that are up at 4 a.m. or not going to bed until whenever. So we can all relate to that.
Have you ever worked a job where you worked during a time change? And I'm kind of curious, is that they just extend your time, or you get to go home early?
Never like that Sunday after. I've never worked like a weekend job, except for one time I was like a bar back in Columbus, one of the bars, and I would be out till 2 a.m. So then I kind of liked it, because then I was more of a degenerate. Then I got an extra hour of sleep, but then I could sleep till 11 a.m. or whatever anyway. But now I'm up. 7 is sleeping in for me usually, and so it is what it is.
Well, and if everybody wondered, like, where they're dads that get to a certain age and they just they brag about how early they wake up, and they try to beat everybody to wake up. This is where the origin of that.
I will gladly let anyone win that competition. I've been up early, before, from coaching, from work, whatever it might be, but it's really not a desire of mine to get up super, super early. But if you got to, it's kind of part of the deal. But unnecessary wake up calls, like before, I think there's a mental hurdle when I see a 5 on the clock versus a 6. If there's a 6 on the clock, 6 a.m., whatever, I can handle it. But when there's that 5, it's like that mental, come on, I want to still be sleeping. And when you wake up in the middle of the night, maybe, as you get older, anyone younger watching, you got to pee sometimes when you wake up in the middle of the night, and you look at the clock and it's like 2 or something. It's like, oh, nice, I can go back to sleep for a couple hours. But if you wake up at like 5:30, it's like, ugh, or 6, it's like, damn, now I'm up, for the day. So it is what it is.
And I think I did math wrong in my head, and I think I broke my brain this week. So when I usually wake up at 5:30, that's my regular time. And I had it in my head that now 5:30 or 4:30 was now 5:30 or whatever. And I thought, oh, now I'm going to wake up at 4:30. Well, then I started waking up at 4:30 when I'm thinking, the actual time is like 6:30.
Yeah, you reversed that.
I did, but then I made my brain start waking up an hour earlier than I typically did for no good reason.
Yeah, that's not good. No. That's not good for anybody.
No, it doesn't work out mathematically.
I mean, I guess you can be more productive and get shit done, but I don't know.
There's
I don't
nothing
like it.
going in at 4:30. Not even me.
Well, and some of the most productive people are like extreme, or have sleep, they can't sleep. What's that called? Whatever. You know what I'm talking. Insomnia.
Yeah.
When they have insomnia, they get like some of their best work done, but I'd rather function normally as a human being and not be a robot throughout the day. So, or a zombie.
Sometimes I'm still drinking my coffee and waking up, and I'll watch our friend Lisa Resnick post something that she just did.
Yeah, her
and I'll be like,
run, yeah.
What the frick? How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Some people are built differently.
Right.
There's other times too when, those people might be in bed by 8 o'clock too at night, and might not be as some people are productive in the evening. Some people are productive in the morning. I used to say too, it's like, in the off season for like basketball and stuff, it's like, get your work in, whether it's an hour or 2 hours a day in the summer. It's like, it doesn't matter if that work is 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's like, as long as you're getting that hour in or 2 hours in every day, it's like you're getting it done. So, to each their own, unless it's a scheduled practice, your ass better be there on time. So, all right. So Browns, we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Buckeyes, we'll talk about YSU Penguins, both football and basketball. We'll do a little weekend recap. We'll talk a little Cavs, a little Cleveland Guardians. They finally hired a new manager, by the way, whose name is Vogt, VOGT, but kind of appropriate on election day here. Yeah. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's have a word from our sponsors real quick.
Halloween is scary, but not as scary as no heat in the winter. Call Mighty Mike today, not tomorrow, for fall maintenance service. 330-207-7070. Or visit MightyMikeHVAC.com. This program proudly supported and brought to you by Eric Cromer, Cross Country Mortgage, a wiser way to mortgage. This program proudly supported and brought to you by the Youngstown Drip IV Bar, helping the Mahoning Valley reach its wellness goal. This program proudly supported and brought to you by Youngstown Computer, the Valley's IT company.
We're back. So let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. Big win over the Cardinals this weekend, 27-0. Your takeaways from the game?
Man, I had so much reservations going into this, and
against the Cardinals.
I did.
No Josh Dobbs.
I was disappointed I didn't get to see my boy. That was crazy. But anyway, did he end up in Minnesota or something?
Yeah, and we'll talk about him in a little bit.
All right. And so my reservations were that I thought that they were forcing the whole Watson thing for the sake of what the media was doing to him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I bet you he's still not ready. And he's going to come out there. They're going to force it too soon. And then we're going to lose him for the rest of the season. So I was terrified that something stupid was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. You know how sometimes you really value something and you put it on a shelf and no one touches it and stuff like that. It's kind of like, I feel like that's how it is with him lately, but it's like, this is football. Like you're going to get hit. And he actually took a big hit in this game.
2 of them. He got hit blasted
and
twice.
Like one time was right on the shoulder.
Yeah.
It looked like, but he seemed to bounce back and fine. He did start slow.
And that accuracy shit, that's got to stop.
Yeah,
that really does.
He was very accurate on the deep balls. It seemed like the short to like intermediate stuff is where he kind of struggled the most. So, any other thoughts from this game?
And I thought the Cardinals, it represented, if you were going to need a warm-up game where you needed to get things, that was the one to do it. That's like a practice.
That's a great,
right?
Yeah.
But if you needed another week to heal, I think that our backup quarterback could have handled that, game without having a loss. So being that he played that, I think he's back for the duration of the season.
I think that's a really good point. I like the idea of a warm-up game for Watson. You're going into the Ravens and then the Steelers. So there's going to be a lot of big time games coming up here where the Browns need to, I said over the Cardinals, Ravens, Steelers, and then I believe it's the Broncos. They needed to go 2-2 there. So we're already 1-0. So we got to obviously win one of these next 3. But let's get greedy again. If we can go 2-2 here or 2-1 here, then I think even better. So I'm going to go over just some of my game notes, game balls, whatever you want to say from this game. So the entire Cleveland defense, first shutout since 2007. You might not remember the exact day, but you will remember the game. That was the blizzard game against the Buffalo Bills when Phil Dawson hit like a crazy field goal, but they shut out the Buffalo Bills that day. 58 total yards allowed by the defense, 7 sacks, 3 takeaways. Also in this game, Amari Cooper, 5 receptions, 139 yards. He continues to be a really great go-to target for whatever quarterback is in there. Also had a touchdown and almost 28 yards per reception. Deshaun Watson in the game, 19 of 30, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Also had 3 carries for 22 yards. Another area where I thought this guy is kind of turning into a weapon for us. The Browns did punt the ball 7 times, but Corey Bojorquez is a kind of a weapon now for the Cleveland Browns. He had 7 punts totaling 410 yards, which is almost 60-yard average. He had a 70-yard long and 2 of those inside the 20. And one of those, I believe, was inside the 2-yard line. So great job there. The unfortunate part of this game, injuries are still happening. They're starting to mount a little bit. You had Jed Wills go down in this game. I know he's been hot and cold this year, but overall, guys stepped up and are playing pretty good football. This was a get-right game for the Browns. Now, the Cardinals were starting a rookie quarterback who had never played, very similar to the situation the Browns were in against the Ravens, 6-7 weeks ago. So now the Browns go in pretty good health on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, they're a little bit banged up, but Watson is back. Most of your weapons are back. Obviously, no Nick Chubb, and you are missing your 2 starting tackles. However, DeJuan Jones has really stepped up there. So James Hudson's got to do a good job, and some others. So this division is pretty scary. So you look at the records of all 4 teams in this division. Ravens, every team would be in the playoffs right now. Ravens 7-2, Steelers 5-3, Browns 5-3, Bengals 5-3. Bengals have won 4 in a row. They host the Texans, and they're a 6-point favorite coming up this weekend. The Ravens are a 6-point favorite right now over the Browns. The Steelers are a slight favorite over the Packers, and the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, as I said, host the Browns this coming weekend. So AFC North, pretty tough. Pretty tough, as
all
Larry
3
David would say.
Spots right now,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, you would have the Ravens, I think, in the number 2 spot, and then all the rest of the teams would be, I think it would be 5, 6, 7. Steelers, Browns. Actually, I think I have a graphic on that a little bit later, but yeah, Steelers, Browns, Bengals, based on like the way the games have played out so far this year. So crazy stuff. So looking at the schedule coming up, Kevin Stefanski also, we don't give him enough credit. He is really good after a loss. Obviously, you don't want to lose too many games, but when they do need to bounce back, he answers the call. So the Browns sitting at 5-3, and I think you would say they've played a pretty tough part of their schedule. The 49ers, Ravens, Bengals already, the Seahawks in there. Those are all tough games. So they are through a big, tough portion of their schedule. Now they got 2 big ones coming up, and I think you got to split these. So I've already said if we can go, we have to go 1-2 over the next 3. But if we can even go 2-1, that much better. So what are your thoughts, Joe, on Kevin Stefanski's job for the Browns this year? What do you think?
I love the fact that on that offense, they play those gadget plays. Like one of my favorite things that make a defense unsure is when you start doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
When it gets to be unpredictable. I think some weird calls that don't pan out. I mean, I'm torn because if they would have worked out, I've been like, yeah, Stefanski, right?
Yeah,
Go
right,
on 4th
right.
down at the 40-yard line. And sometimes when go into this back-to-back passing plays when the
Mhm.
run is what, we're getting 5 yards of carry and we go into a passing binge for some reason. I'm like, what
Yeah.
was he thinking? What
Mhm.
did he see that I didn't see?
Mhm.
Overall, I give him a B plus.
I think he's actually doing a really good job. And I think people have been kind of on his ass a little bit this year, especially I get the 1 3rd and 3 call at Seattle. You probably want to run the ball there, but it is what it is. He was going, I think, for the jugular and going for the win, and they didn't get it. You expect your defense to win it for you there. They don't. And it is what it is. Hindsight is 2020.
Now with Watson in there, do you think there's ever a time where if Stefanski calls in a play and he sees a read on the defense that he has some room to not follow that offensive play? Do you think it can take some liberties?
Do you mean Deshaun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say he's probably got enough knowledge of the system where he can audible out of that, where he can say, I don't like this play call. Let's check to a pass. Let's check to a run, whatever it might be. Now, when you got more and more offensive linemen that might be new to the system or be like replacement type guys on the line, you might not want to change too many calls, and you don't have Nick Chubb back there to kind of
bail you
out. Yeah, as much. So, but Ford's coming along.
Yeah. How do you like those dump off passes?
Yeah, I mean,
to get him out of a bad position. I love that.
Hunt's been playing well. Pierre Strong looks pretty good. So, you don't have Nick Chubb, who was the best running back in the league. We all know that. He wasn't the greatest pass catcher, but he was the best runner in the league, no doubt, hands down. But I think the combination of all three of these guys aren't the sum total of Nick Chubb, but they're pretty close to the parts. These three parts make up what a Nick Chubb can give you.
Right.
Are they the same running team? No, but they're still running the ball at a very, very solid clip. I think they're number 3 overall in run game, maybe 4th at worst. So I think the Browns overall are doing a pretty good job on the run game. And 5-3. I think if you told us that at the beginning of the season, we'd probably be okay with that, knowing what the schedule looks like in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I feel like we got some of our injuries, our big injuries, like our key player injuries, out of the way early in the season.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that as we heal up, and then some of those longer term injuries on other teams, I think that's going to be an advantage.
Well, and I keep thinking about this from the Ravens. I do not wish injury on anyone. However, Lamar Jackson has not played in the month of December like the last 2 years. Yeah. We're inching towards December. He's playing at an MVP level right now, but now's about that time of year when he starts kind of like breaking down a little bit. You're almost at the halfway point of the season. So it'll be interesting. If he stays healthy, the Ravens are going to probably be the 1 or 2 seed. If he gets hurt, the Ravens were 8-3 last year and missed the playoffs. So he is the engine that makes that team go. And we'll talk more about the Ravens on Thursday, but this is a big game coming up for the Browns this week. Big game.
And both of us we're big fans of Donovan Peoples-Jones. So how that hits your heart?
Yeah. I wasn't like upset about it. Like if they would have traded like Cooper or Nick Chubb, or, like one of the main guys. However, where I was like unsure about it was you get a 6th round pick back for him in like 2025. So that pick doesn't even come for 2 years. And I know that's what he was a 6th round pick, like 4 years ago, but he was still a weapon on this team. And then you got David Bell that got banged up a little bit, didn't even play last week. So you got to bring guys like Cedric Tillman along, maybe see if they're ready. So I didn't love it from like losing a weapon sort of perspective. So I'm kind of happy for him in the sense of he's going to go to the Lions now. That's where he's from. He's from Detroit. And hopefully it works out for him well. Maybe we'll see him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. But you contrast with how many years we held on to Anthony Schwartz, and he actually had problems offensively.
Yeah.
And we kind of gave him some chances. I don't think DPJ ever made mistakes, and he was never a liability to the team. And just off him so quickly, I thought it was a little weird.
We should play that Sarah McLachlan song, "I Will Remember You," and like over some a montage of highlights. But a couple like memories I do have. He like two plays stand out for me. One was that game where the Browns in the 2020 season with Baker, with a few others, they had that comeback at Cincinnati. He actually made his first. Do you know who his first reception in the NFL was from? This is a random one. Jarvis Landry.
Seriously?
So on a wide receiver pass. So his first catch was in that game, and then later in that game he made a game-winning touchdown pass to secure that comeback. And then last year he had that nice punt return for a touchdown against Houston. So he's had some really nice moments in a Browns uniform, but he's not. I think he was in a contract year. The Browns probably weren't going to pay him next year. So it's like you trade 8 games of him away for, a future draft pick. Right. So I don't know. The analytics guys know more than I do,
and wide receivers are really cheap in this market now. So
especially young ones for sure. Young ones and unproven ones. But I think he would have probably ended up costing you like $10 million a year based on his previous production. And the Browns can pay Cedric Tillman, pennies on that for the next 3 years. And he, I think, has the higher ceiling. So we'll see on that. So let's go to, I want to give one thought on each game this weekend. And I'll kind of give you a little highlight on that. So here's one thought from each weekend. First of all, the Steelers are the complete luckiest team in the NFL. They are the luckiest team in the NFL. They win Thursday night over the Titans. The Steelers have been, listen to this. The Steelers are 5-3, right? They have been outgained in every game this season. Every game. They've also trailed in the fourth quarter of every game this season. That is insane. Let's next go to Dolphins and Chiefs. This game was in Germany. Chiefs led this game 21-0. The Dolphins, I believe, are 6-0 versus under 500 teams and 0-3 against teams over 500. So could be a little bit of fraudulent teams there. The Vikings. Now, I want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings because that is where your guy Josh Dobbs got traded. Their quarterback, because they lost Kirk Cousins for the year last week. So they trade for Josh Dobbs. They start this other guy, goes into concussion protocol. Josh Dobbs has to go in the game, doesn't know the playbook, doesn't even know the players, but he's the backup quarterback for that game. You're like, oh, all right, this guy can get us through 1 week, and then we'll catch Dobbs up. No, he gets thrown in, has to learn names of the players, routes, all this stuff. They're literally communicating it to him as the play's going, and he leads them to a victory. So unbelievable stuff.
Josh effing Dobbs.
That's your guy, and congratulations on a great win. Saints Bears, kind of a boring game. Saints win that one. Packers, not a good team, but beat up a even worse team in the Rams, especially without Matt Stafford. Patriots stink. That's all I'll say. Commanders trade away their 2 best defensive players and still get the win there. Ravens are just destroying teams. I mean, look at that 37-3 against the Seahawks.
Remember what the Seahawks did in the game with the Browns. They were not a slouch by any means.
No, they're not a bad team. And they're going to be a playoff team in the NFC. The Texans, CJ Stroud versus the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield led them to what they thought was going to be a game-winning touchdown drive. No, CJ Stroud sets the rookie record, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns. Looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league through 9 games. I saw a stat. He already has more career touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett in 13 less games. He also set the highest rating for a rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL. Just amazing stuff. By the Ohio State rookie there. So
I was going to ask you what school he went to.
I was going to say though, too, it's I've heard Ohio State quarterbacks don't do anything in the NFL.
Right, of
So,
course.
but we'll see.
Although I will tell you, Baker did what he was supposed to do as a quarterback. This is not on Baker Mayfield.
Baker played a good game.
Yes,
he did. And did you see a lot of people were mad because that line was 2.5. A lot of people were mad because that line was 2.5. But Houston lost their kicker early in that game. He got injured. They actually had to bring in their backup running back to kick a game-tying field goal. And then they thought, well, instead of lining up for the extra point after that touchdown, they took a knee instead of, because, if let's just say they throw a pick or fumble and it's returned, then the game's tied, or a field goal's blocked or whatever. So they just took a knee, and a lot of gambling people were either happy or really pissed about that. Yeah. So, but with no kicker, what do you want to do?
Even if you did have a kicker, why wouldn't that be the power play anyhow? If you're gonna kill the rest of the time on the clock.
I think there was 1 second on the clock. So, I mean,
why would even a kicker risk it?
Well, yeah, because that is an untimed down. So they still would have had to kick off, but literally you can't run another play if the ball's touched after that on the kickoff. Yeah. So you just squib it and the game's over, so it is what it is. The next game, Colts Panthers, Bryce Young, the number 1 pick in this draft, is making them maybe rethink that and say, what would we do if we had that pick again with CJ Stroud? The Raiders, who fired their head coach, Josh McDaniel, who is from Canton, Ohio, just go and beat up the Giants. So I have a theory of anytime a team fires their head coach, take them with the points the next week. So whoever the next coach that gets fired, take that team to win the following week. Okay. Just, depending on the line. Cowboys had it inside the Eagles 10-yard line with less than a minute to go. They do not win. The Bengals have won 4 in a row. And then the Chargers beat up the Jets, even though the Chargers didn't look good, but the Jets look even worse. So that is a look around the NFL this past weekend.
The Jets are so bad, man.
They, and I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers, but that offense is inept. And they have Garrett Wilson, who's a stud. They got Breece Hall's a good running back. They have some good players, but they just look bad. Yeah. So
I have a conspiracy theory for the Jets. Gary V. Gary Vaynerchuk. He opened that online wine store. He's a motivational speaker. Heard of him?
I feel like I have.
All right. So this guy, super successful business guy.
Okay.
He put out there about 10 years ago that he wanted to buy the Jets.
Okay.
Right? And they were too expensive over inflated value.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's methodically debasing the Jets so he can buy them at a value down the road.
You know who owns the Jets though, right? The owners of Johnson & Johnson.
That's gonna be
so that's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, you own a team. It's like printing money. So, and isn't it ironic? Johnson & Johnson's the company that produces the Pfizer vaccine, and who's their quarterback? Aaron Rodgers, who's totally opposed to it. So,
well, maybe the Jets will be so bad one day that Gary V will be like, I'll take them off your hands.
Yeah. Hey,
free of charge, baby.
$5 billion, cut and clean.
That's
dry. We're good. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the playoff standings as if they were today. So you got the Chiefs and Ravens 7-2, Jacksonville coming off a bye 6-2, Dolphins 6-3, Steelers 5, Browns 6, Bengals 7. So all AFC North teams in the playoffs if it were to start today. Outside looking in, the Bills. So to me, this is basically, I think we can probably, I don't want to cross any teams off yet, but I think the Bills and the Chargers, I still don't quite believe in the Houston Texans enough to make the playoffs this year. But I think the Bills are playing some bad football right now, but they're up and down. They've also destroyed the Dolphins. So they're a mysterious team. The Chargers are, I don't know what they are. They're sometimes a great team, sometimes a terrible team, and often in the middle. So I don't know how this is going to go the rest of the year, but I don't know. So looking at those standings, who do you think is going to be out that's in now, and who do you think is out now and will be in?
All right, I think the Steelers are out of there. I think where they're at now has been a struggle.
Yes.
And they have not earned into a lot of those games.
Yeah.
So I think they're out. And I think I think Buffalo showed early on that they have some stuff.
Mhm.
I think they're in.
Okay. Yeah. I really don't disagree with that at all. The Steelers it's an amazing accomplishment that they are 5-3 right now.
Absolutely.
An unbelievable accomplishment that they have the record they do. And that is a credit to their coaches. I know Steeler fans want to fire Matt Canada. I know Mike Tomlin sometimes gets some heat, but I think he's the best coach in the NFL. I really do. I think he is, or maybe in the sense of best leader in the NFL. I'll put it like that. So here's my look at top 5
can I
and top
mention one more
bottom.
thing?
Please do.
All right. So going back to Miami is really the only one where we started talking at the beginning of the season, and you have no idea which Miami is going to show up on the field. So this early on, before the playoffs before we have the record to know who's going to place here, Miami would be that second one behind the Steelers. I think the Steelers is more garbage than their record shows, and I think the Miami has the biggest chance of melting down.
I agree too, because if Miami has to play some cold weather games too, they are a team that's built 100% on the pass. They have a decent run game that they can make. Actually, they have a good run game. I will say that, but their run game is totally predicated on their pass game. Yeah. And if Tua is not protected, and the weather gets colder, I don't think that passing game is easily available. And then you can take away that run game. So it's kind of one side, helps the other there. So I don't know. I like what you said, though. I think the Steelers and Bills might be a good flip-flop there. So here's a look. These are who I have. I have the Ravens right now as the best team in the NFL. A few weeks ago, I had the 49ers there, though, and we knocked them off. So maybe can do the same for the Ravens. But Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles. Eagles have a great record, but not they've kind of like been a weird team this whole year. The Dolphins I still have up there. And then the Lions I have up there, which is a little bit of a surprise, but I like the way Detroit has played this year. Then the bottom 5, I have the New York Giants right now. They are playing a guy right now at quarterback that was the same name as Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas, Tommy DeVito. So
that's the best.
He's probably working on his shine box and throwing some passes to get ready for this coming week. I think they got the Bills this week, so that might be a mess.
So what do you think as far as Philadelphia and Kansas City? Do you think we've just got their number? They've been on the field long enough that we figured out their offense, and they're disadvantaged because nothing's really changed.
Well, I think the Chiefs have the best quarterback, and Travis Kelce is probably one of the top 3 best players in the NFL that's not a quarterback on the offensive side of the ball. So they have those 2 guys, but if you can slow him down, the Chiefs don't have like a great running game, and they don't have like the other weapons that scare you. The Eagles, I think the Eagles are really good, but they're giving up a lot of points, and their offense isn't quite clicking. So I don't know. I mean, they put up a bunch of points against the Cowboys this week. So it's like some weeks it's there and some weeks it's not. They're kind of a mystery team, a mixed bag. So I don't know. So, but it would not surprise me to see them in the Super Bowl again this year, so
they are good. They are solid.
They are very, very good. So, those are the top 5 and bottom 5 teams. The scary thing for Carolina, they do not have their own pick this year. It will go to the Chicago Bears in the draft. So Chicago could have 2 of the top 3, 4, 5 picks in the draft this year. Giants are bad. Cardinals, we just saw what they are. They're not very good. I think they're a scrappy team, but they were playing above water too. And without a veteran quarterback, now they do get Kyler Murray back, but we'll see what happens there. Bears, not very good. And the Patriots, they stink. I think the Patriots probably should be a little bit lower on this list, but that's where they're at. So that's a look at that. We're going to transition. We're going to go real quick through some college football stuff here. But Ohio State, Rutgers, Joe, was beating Ohio State at halftime, 9-7. 9-7. Rutgers is not a bad team though. They are 6-3. They have a really good defense, but it's still Rutgers. Ohio State came out and just, beat them up in the second half. Took a pick six, like a 95-yard pick six to flip that game. But Marvin Harrison Jr. only had 4 catches for 25 yards, but 2 of those catches were touchdowns. Travion Henderson, their elite running back, 208 yards total offense. Ryan Day moves to 54-6 overall and 37-2 in the Big Ten, all while leading a RICO investigation against Michigan. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the one that he's leading that federal investigation against Michigan, which at least all Michigan fans seem to think so.
Right.
So, I mean, that's pretty, leading up a racketeering charge and, criminal investigation against a team while coaching 100+ players on a college football field. It's pretty impressive stuff. So
I am not on the Kyle McCord train.
No.
If you gave me another quarterback option, I would seriously consider it.
He is frustrating because the talent is there.
Yes.
The arm is there. I think a little bit about what drives people nuts about Kyle McCord is he's always real stoic. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. I mean, what will drive me nuts is the interceptions. He's thrown,
Crazy.
I think, 4 of those this year now. But he can be frustrating at times, and he's a slow starter. This past game, he started, I think he was 12 for 12 starting, but they were all little dink and dunk type throws. But he's been finishing games well, the Notre Dame game, the Wisconsin game, a bunch of the other games. But consistency is what I like to see for him. And who knows, Ohio State could go into the transfer portal, bring somebody else in next year. They could, they have an elite quarterback recruit coming in next year. It's rare to see a true freshman start, but at the end of the day, the best stat is they're 9-0. He hasn't, knock on wood, hasn't cost them a game.
Right.
Excuse me, but are they winning in spite of him kind of a thing? You have the best wide receiver, maybe player in college football on the outside. You have another great receiver in Ibuka. You have a good tight end. You got a pretty solid running back, an okay offensive line. So Ohio State is winning weirdly this year because they're winning with the defense as their primary carrier of the team, where it's usually flipped. The defense in the last few years has been bad and the offense has been elite. So I don't know. They're a really good team. The rankings will come out tonight again. Last week, they were the number 1 team in the country based on the college football playoff poll. So we'll see what they reveal tonight. But they will take on Michigan State this coming weekend. So you never take a team for granted or win for granted, but Michigan State is in a bad place right now as a program. They are coming off a win at Nebraska, but not a great team. So here's what I think the playoff committee will do tonight. This is just my opinion. I think Georgia, with their win over Missouri, probably will take over the number 1 spot. Ohio State, it really doesn't matter if you're 2 or 3 because there's no real home field advantage there. And 4, I think Washington next to Ohio State has the best resume. Florida State's right there in the undefeated teams, and Oregon's probably the best 1-loss team. So that's my opinion on how that will play out tonight. So we'll see on that.
Just watch out after watching Georgia play and comparing that to Ohio State's offense. It's not even a comparison.
I still think when Ohio State is on, though, they have, and I hate to use the word potential. I forgot this was sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start getting after that. You forget though, Ohio State has some of the best talented guys on their side of the ball. It's just everything's not clicking quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're still averaging almost 33 points a game. We've just been so spoiled with 44, 45 points a game that those 10 points make a difference. However, your defense is only giving up like 11 points a game. So it's a big difference. So real quick, let's talk a little YSU. They got the win this past weekend. Indiana State has an awful record. I think they're 0-8 now, but they are a tough, scrappy team. YSU goes there, gets the 19-7 win. YSU now on a 3-game winning streak. This weekend, Youngstown State will host the number 1 team in the country, South Dakota State. They're the defending national champions. They come here to Youngstown. So I saw Joe posted it on a story. I shared it out. Make sure, if you're able, get down to YSU and support this team. They are a really hardworking team. Their defense has a little bit of issues from time to time, the things they can clean up, mostly in the secondary, but that offense is pretty solid. Good running game, solid receivers, good quarterback, hard-working line. The defense is playing hard, getting after it. And we're going to have 2 of those players down here on Thursday. We're going to have Tyshawn King, the running back, and we will have Alex Howard, a linebacker, who is playing both of them playing great football in the season. They're going to be here on Thursday. So
South Dakota is tough.
They're one of those teams, though, like, they do everything well. There's no real flaw in them. They're not they might not be the best passing team. They probably are the best running team. They have a very good defense. They do everything really well. So they're just a team that's hard to find the flaws. So YSU will need, I'm trying to think what that stadium holds, 23,000. If we can get a sellout down there, that would be phenomenal.
12th man, super strong, loud.
Exactly. So, and if you're able to get down there, get down to YSU this Saturday. And we'll talk obviously more about that this coming Thursday. So real quick notes on the basketball program. We've already featured Ziggy Reed, EJ Farmer. We've also had Jalen Bates and DJ Burns. They tipped off their season last night at Louisiana. Unfortunately, 72-62 loss. However, they tip off the season. They started pretty well. That's a tough place to go and travel against the Ragin' Cajuns down there. But their next game is against Michigan in Ann Arbor on November 10th. That is this coming Friday. So that's not too long of a drive too. So drive up to Michigan, go watch YSU take on the Wolverines. Hopefully Michigan hasn't been scouting any of their signs.
That was
and and then YSU will return home a week from yesterday, so Monday the 13th, to take on Ohio Christian for their home opener. So that's a look at the men's team. The women's team will tip off their season tomorrow night against the Xavier Musketeers, who are coming up from the Cincinnati area tomorrow at 6:30. So we've featured several of these players on our show. We've had Maddie in here. We've had Malia, Dina. We've had, who else have we had? We've had Emily Saunders and Paige Shy on our shows down here. So get out and support these athletes. They're working hard, and the men, like I said, tipped off their season last night and will be home next Monday. Women tip off their season tomorrow at home. So get out and support the Penguins basketball teams. Real quick check in with the Cleveland Cavs. They're overall doing have an up and down season, but they're gonna get it together. I saw a lot of people like, oh, this team is so frustrating after a 1-3 start. They're 3-4. It's 7 games in. Let it breathe a little bit. They've had a couple struggles. They've also played most of their games without Darius Garland, without Jared Allen. So give it some time. They will figure it out, and they will get after it. So switching now to the Cleveland Guardians. As I mentioned earlier, it's election day, and what better name than Stephen Vogt to hire for your manager position? He is the 45th manager in franchise history. So welcome, Stephen Vogt. looking at that picture, he's only 38 years old. He looks like he's lived a rugged life, but as a catcher, that is not an easy position to play, but generally catchers make good managers because they're used to calling a game. They're used to seeing the whole field and, just kind of being that eyes and ears of the pitcher, but also the defense and figuring things out. So working the staff, stuff like that. So thought that was kind of cool. Joe, a NASCAR note.
Yes.
And the Blaney's a little bit. So thought this was kind of cool. Ryan Blaney wins the, I believe the NASCAR Cup Series is what they call it. I'm not a NASCAR aficionado, but when you see a local guy that wins a pretty prestigious title, I think that's worth sharing. So
yeah,
thoughts on him and what thoughts on the Blaney family? Because I know it's
really
them.
Cool. So Lou Blaney was the racer that I started watching. He's just a legend on dirt. And then so Dave, which is son, he got involved in dirt, moved his way up to the ranks of World of Outlaws, got a job in NASCAR with Bill Davis Racing. Really, the caliber of teams that he was a driver for many years were sort of like on the lowest funded end of things.
Yeah.
So he was in races, but he struggled quite a bit.
Sure.
And so I think he stayed in NASCAR long enough so that he would know enough people and be active enough so that Ryan could then, once he hit a certain spot where he was legally allowed to be in it, to be a racer. And so it's kind of cool to watch that dynamic of father-son, where Dave is a super smart race car driver, and to watch him like impart that wisdom on his son, really a cool thing to watch.
That is cool. And it's not something, again, I know a whole lot about, but from what I do know, it's very, very tough. They're not just driving 400 miles in a left turn. This is a lot of physical hard work, a lot of behind the scenes. And how many people are on a team, would you say, on a NASCAR team? Like changing out the wheels, the tires, gas crew, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd say about a dozen people are up on that pit box.
And you probably got spotters, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Spotters up top, crew chief, the whole thing.
It's a lot.
And they got a whole mechanic crew back in the garage that if something happens. So there's a lot of people active that day.
So it's again, it might not be for everybody, but even if you don't watch it, it's hard not to appreciate, because the level of science that goes into this, the level of scrutiny on the vehicle, on the driver, on the team, there's a lot that goes into it, not just the driver just going as fast as he can, it's insane.
The craziest thing is the amount of heat that those cars generate.
Oh, I bet.
It's like sitting in a sauna for 4 hours driving like that. I mean, I like the sauna and everything,
right.
half hours, but to be able to breathe that hot air for that amount of time, man, it would kill me.
It's crazy stuff. And my brother-in-law is he's pretty close with Martin Truex Jr. And he's been down in the pit or whatever before, and he would say, like, it's insane to see some of these angles too of the road. It's not just this flat surface.
No, absolutely.
It is an insane angle. Like sometimes I think like 30, 45 degrees. Well, maybe not 45, but maybe like
it's almost there. Like Bristol, it's like a bowl.
Wow.
Like when you walk up the side of it, you're walking and you're not making it straight up.
Okay, interesting. So like the middle part of the Youngstown Marathon race.
Yes, the ones that we
like that. Yeah, we didn't have to do that one. That was nice. A couple other things I want to share real quick. 2 more points. 49ers defensive end Eric Armstead shared this on social media. He makes $393,055 a game, but the amount of money that comes out in taxes, 49.3% of his paycheck comes out in taxes. That is insanity. Now, San Francisco, that's expensive to live. California is a heavily taxed state as well, but that's pretty crazy. Almost 50% of your salary coming out in to Uncle Sam one way or another. I don't think anyone's feeling bad for him making about $400,000 a game, but I think he'll be okay. But the level of taxes is pretty insane there. And I just want to make one more push here to get out and vote if you have time, if you see this live or whatever. But let's talk to our representatives about ending standard time and keeping daylight savings time. So I did a little research on this. Governor Jared Polis in California signed the daylight saving time year-round measure last year. He is now waiting on the U.S. House to pass the Sunshine Protection Act. In March 2020, the Senate passed the act, and it was supposed to make daylight saving time permanent starting this past spring. But the holdup is the bill failed to be taken up in the House. So
why do you think that is? There's definitely somebody opposed to this. Why do you think they're opposed?
I don't know. People are stupid. What's the advantage? I really want to know. What would be the advantage to not doing this?
It's got to be because the Earth is flat, and at a certain time at night that you can tell, and then once you go to sleep,
holding up the bill. It just pisses me off. It really does. It's one of those like little things in life. It's like so unnecessary, so not needed. I don't even know why it was a thing. Was it like a war thing or a farming thing before? And like, why can't it just be daylight savings time all year round? Why do we have to switch the clocks and do this whole body cycle thing and sleep cycle thing every 6 months?
Because it kills 24% more people, and depopulation's a thing.
Maybe that's what they're going for. So
there was another one I was reading an article, because I read all the conspiracy theory literature to make sure, but they were thinking about evening out the months so that they all had 30 days, either 30 or 31 or 30 days. And then having 13 months rather than 12 to have an even amount of days. Monday would start what are you laughing about? This is awesome. Like, you wouldn't have to have leap years. You wouldn't have to have daylight savings times. Mondays would always start on the 1st, and it would just be amazing.
So wait, I'm trying to do the math in my head. So 365 days in a year, 365 and a quarter days in a year.
Well, you wouldn't have to do that stupid quarter thing.
So,
anymore.
but
because my uncle was born on a leap year, and he's only like 19 years old. That sucks for him. Like, you had all your birthdays. What about him?
Yeah, well, he can celebrate it March 4th, that old bastard. I don't know, but I hate that idea. I will say this. I am more in favor of a 13-month calendar with all the days than I am with this daylight savings time shit.
Let's do both. Let's get rid of daylight savings time, have it the same time, and have the same amount of days in every month, so that Monday's always the 1st. There you go.
So then wouldn't it be a 28 week?
Maybe it was. I don't remember the total number of days, but it ended up being 364 days spread over 13 months.
But the way the Earth goes around the sun, that would eventually throw off the seasons. Like, it might take years.
Well, I think it actually lines up with the astronomical.
I think you're talking bullshit right now. We'll get into this Gregorian whatever calendar later in a future show.
The Aztecs.
I actually did listen to a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson once, and he explained that there's a leap year. We know there's a leap year every 4 years, but every 1,000 years they take away a leap year, or it's every 400 years they take a leap year away, so that it lines up, because it's we'll be 6 minutes off here or there. So I don't know.
Fix that crap.
I know.
We have
Come
the
on,
ability.
get this shit together.
Absolutely.
That's all I got. You got any more?
That's it.
All right. Let's get out of here. All right. Thursday, we will be back. Everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.